Yesterday I completed a specification for my project, which looks like this. Here we have a simple layout with 3 windows. In the first panel we'll have input, in the second panel we'll have list of transforms, and in the last panel we'll have an output. So user can, for example, paste any text and then encrypt it and see here the result of the encryption. Any number of transforms are possible here, so it might be not just encryption but also hashing or whatever. Okay, so I created a specification for this where every element is discussed and we know what it's doing. So now that I completed it, I want to stop a unit testing framework. Now React, which I am going to use for this project, has its own unit testing framework, but somehow I like Cypress more because it is both unit testing framework and end-to-end testing framework at the same time. First thing to do when we set up Cypress would be to actually find how to do it. Setting it up is very easy. You can just use npm install Cypress. But before we start doing this, we need a package JSON file here, which is needed in any JavaScript project today. So let's start by initting this with npm init. Yeah, now I need some name for this project. We'll call it text transform to match text transformer to match my GitHub repo name. Version, okay, it doesn't matter much. A one-page web app. Okay, we can say in this chest this is our input entry point, but it doesn't really matter here. Test command, I think we can just use npm. Well, I think npm run Cypress. I think actually it should be a different command, but let's just write it like this for now. I prefer using SSH instead of HTTPS, so I'll just enter this here. Keywords. Doesn't really matter. Yes. Okay, now that we created it, we want to install Cypress. It said here npm install Cypress, but I will actually use Yarn because this will be a React app and somehow Yarn is more traditional when working with React. So I will just do yarn add Cypress. You can also do npm install Cypress. This is more or less the same thing, but I'm going to use Yarn for this project, so that's why. Okay, now it's installed. By the way, if you don't have Yarn installed, you can install it with npm ig yarn. This will install Yarn globally. If you don't have npm installed, then what you need to do is to install Node. Just Google install node.js. On Windows, it's as easy as downloading a file. On Linux, I suggest you use nvm, Node Version Manager. It's very easy to use on Unix-like systems, that is Linux, macOS, and the like. Okay, so now that Cypress installed, we can see that to run it we need this binary, actually, this binary here, which we can run with node. I'm not sure if it's going to work like this in Windows. Modules, node modules.bin, Cypress open. Okay, yeah, it's starting. Yeah, here you can see there will be some examples here which are created by default, but we won't be able to really check it because yeah, actually we will be able to check it. It's just loading it from Cypress site. Okay, so these examples are a good starting point, actually. These examples and the Cypress documentation. Cypress docs. For example, you can see this test. We start with loading the page first. Then we get these actions, action email, this input area. Then we type there fake@email.com. Okay. Then we make sure that this input has value. So, and many tests like this, which just showing you how to type. This is more of a tutorial than an actual test because they're here they are. You can see Cypress integration examples. You can see it's more of a tutorial because it's showing you how you can easily get element and type something into it. For example, here we type different things into action email. So now let's return to our spec. Our first group of specs are these four spec which describes what should be shown on the page once it loads. Let's again return to our spec. Oh no, return to this spec here. So we can see the page, actual page. So that's what it's about. When the page loads, the user should see three panels: input, transforms, and output. These panels on a single page. This is test 1. So let's start with test 1. I would create here inside integration another folder. We can call it text transformer tests. Okay. I think should be, yeah, it should be inside the integration. Text transformer tests. And first group of tests we will name, how we're going to name them, page load spec.spec.js. Okay, and immediately let's look at the example, how we started. This is to refer to the typings, to refer this to the typings. This is mostly used to show, I think, these tooltips for every command. Sometimes your plugin might not find these typings, so it's showing them which typings to use here. So context is more like a group of tests, so you can understand context like group of tests. Describe a suite. This is test suite. You see here we can describe a suite with the given title and callback function containing nested suites. We can call it page load. And let's start with our first test. Let's start with before each. What are we going to do before each test? Before each test, we will probably want to Cypress visit, right? Because we want to visit our page. We will open our page locally, so let's start with just localhost. I think it's going to be 7000 by default, but I might be mistaken, so this we can change later. Also, probably this might be a good idea to make port a variable. Maybe we will want to change this variable at some point, right? Okay, now let's start our first test. From this spec, let's just select whatever is already here. Pre-panels will remove these things because in Markdown this double underline means bold text. So you can see here, this text is actually bold. It transforms into the B tag, B HTML tag. But here in text name we don't really need this, so I would remove it. So let's try Cypress get. Let's say we will have an input. Now, well, I like usually scope in my CSS names. So since this project is called text transformer, maybe we can TRS. Maybe we can start all the CSS here with TRS. While using IDs is usually fine, somehow I prefer using classes everywhere. So let's do it like this. So we need to find this element here. So we get this element, and this element should, and here we immediately have a lot to select from, right? It should be visible. Okay, so basically there should be some TRS input panel which should be visible. Okay, let's do same thing with transforms panel. And same thing we can do with the output panel. Okay, now let's try to run our test. Here, you see, now we can see it here immediately. I would personally prefer it to be above the examples. Okay, I can just do it like this. Yeah, as you can see, it can't even visit our localhost colon 7000. That is because nothing is running on port 7000. So what we want now is to set up React app. Setting up React app is as easy as yarn create React app. I prefer using TypeScript actually. I think it should be like this. Let me check. Create React app TypeScript. Yarn create React app. Yeah, I think that's correct. TypeScript, so this should create a TypeScript app. I think I should have done it inside a src folder. Okay, something just failed. I'm not sure why. Ah, yeah, now I know why. It failed because I did not specify a folder. Okay, this folder. Okay. Now it doesn't like our files which were already created here. I think there is no other choice but to recreate the app. I need to first set up React app and then add Cypress to it, not vice versa, what I did now. Can use yarn start now. Now it tries to open localhost 3000, but it can't because it's still starting. it opened in Firefox by default, but let's now, yeah, you can see. Now we loaded our startup page, but this startup page though lacks what we need, that is TRS input panel. So test fails because it never found even first panel. Okay, so now that we have first test, which is failing, we should write code so that it passes it now. Actually, writing code I wanted to mostly leave for tomorrow, but we can just show an example how we can actually make this test pass. The easiest example would be to write it like this, of course. TRS input panel. So yeah, but this one is still invisible because it considers invisibility because it has an effective width and height of 1000 by 0. Basically height is 0. That's why it still considers it invisible. So we can set this TRS input panel. Usually we shouldn't do this directly in the app TSX. We would create multiple components for this, but this is just an example to show how you do test room development in Cypress. Let's see, we can have width of 80% screen width and height of, let's say, 30% screen height. Okay, and we might have even border 1 pixel solid, or maybe gray. Okay, so that's what we have now. Yeah, obviously you will want it at least centered. So we can how do we center this? One way would be to use display flex. This should probably work. I don't know why it's not refreshed automatically. Yeah, somehow it's not working. Flex direction row. I think align items center. Justify items center. Oh, we need to refresh anyway. Okay, align content center. Justify content center. Yeah, now it's working like this. Yeah, which one actually centers it here? I think justify content, yes. Yeah, think justify content will center it by x-axis. So anyway, the easiest way to make this pass would of course be TRS panel. Column. So now it's not justify content, it's justify items, probably. No, maybe align content. Align items. Yes, now it's align items. Depending on flex direction, actually it's different. So I'm a little confused which one means what, and sometimes I forget about it. Actually, you could just Google it instead of doing what I'm doing now, guessing. So we can have TRS input panel, TRS transforms panel, TRS output panel. Yeah, we have something here. We have 3 panels. Now we said that everything is okay, but nothing is okay, of course. But still, this is how you do test-driven development. I still need to style those panels, but I'm not going to do it today. I will check it tomorrow. One way to do this would be to use Bootstrap. But we're done for today, so thank you for watching.